OnePlus used to mean something as a company. They used to represent this countercultural force. I remember back in high school and college, seeing somebody pull out a OnePlus phone, it meant that they understood that all the other flagship options out there were heavily marked up due to public renown, marketing costs, and frankly gimmicks. These days though, how is OnePlus supposed to maintain its indie David versus Goliath reputation? Maybe an underdog's success will always lead to backlash, because they've certainly been through ups and downs. But they never stopped releasing good and logical phones. They were reasonably priced and they did a lot of things well. And then, the OnePlus 12 took that a step further. Last year's OnePlus flagship held its own against a lot of the other flagship releases, which kind of puts them in a pickle. How do you follow up on that? Well, let's refer to last year's OnePlus 12 review.
The weight, this phone is heavy. The lack of full waterproof rating boosts the waterproof rating to Glacier battery. Silicon carbon anode. I would really love to see a flat screen. I think I'd love to see an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor. And I think the only thing that could pull me away from this phone is the possibility of OnePlus next year hitting it out of the park with their 2025 models.
I think I'm in for a treat. I'm going to try and bring my expectations down to earth some, because OnePlus isn't the only company offering good performance at a strong price point. So please join me in assuming the role of the skeptic, and let's unbox the OnePlus 13. I used to tease my friends that would watch ASMR, and then I realized that that's basically all I do whenever there's a new phone that comes out. It just kind of scratches that itch in the lizard brain, you know? This is the OnePlus 13. This comes out in January. I also picked up the OnePlus Buds Pro 3, but we'll talk about that later. Before I go any further, let me get this out of the way. OnePlus generously provided this phone for review prior to its release. I'm really flattered by the opportunity, but please know that my only priority is determining whether this new gadget is worth your time and money, and I won't hold any punches. Don't forget, anything that you drop a lot of money on and the time that you're currently spending researching this as well, it should serve to improve your life. So figure out what that cost to benefit ratio looks like for you and trust your gut. Inside we have this SIM ejector tool, our safety guide, a quick guide, and a USB A to C adapter. And here is the OnePlus 13. That's nice. Okay, I like that a lot. This is the Arctic Dawn color, by the way. Oh, thank God. There were some rumors that the global version of this phone wasn't going to include the wall charger. I'm happy to say that it does. This is the OnePlus SuperVOOC wall charger USB-A. This charges at a max speed of 80 watts. That's just some weird American thing. I don't know why we can't get the 100 watts that this phone is capable of in other parts of the world, but you know, that's where it is. So fortunately, yes, we do still have the wall charger. This of course includes this signature red charging cable as well. Once again, this also does come with a USB A to C adapter. Let's start this off with build and design. Like last year, there are 3 colors, each with a different finish. Black Eclipse, Midnight Ocean, and Arctic Dawn, which is the one that I got. It's possible that OnePlus could unify these color and finish options to consolidate their visual lineup a little better, but that would ruin some of the fun, wouldn't it? So let's give this phone a lazy once-over, shall we? On the bottom of the phone is the same excellent USB-C port as last year, featuring 80-watt wired charging, video out, all the stuff you would expect from a top-of-the-line USB-C port. Along the left side, that dear old alert slider makes another triumphant return. It's as practical as it's always been, and it's still wild to me that there aren't more companies doing this. In combination with the delicious haptic feedback, it feels like a very natural part of the phone, which is pretty admirable considering it's completely exclusive in the Android space. On top of the phone, the IR blaster is another returning fan favorite. No, it's not some essential feature, but it's another one-of-a-kind addition that sets OnePlus apart from its competition. There are also some upgraded microphones along the top, which I'll also be testing in this video. On the right side, the button layout hasn't changed at all, which is fine with me because I think it's an excellent layout for such a large phone. Everything feels secure and clicky. All along the sides of the phone are the antenna lines. It's worth calling out that OnePlus claims to have greatly improved connectivity this year, particularly for underground venues, crowded concerts, and subway tunnels. The build quality overall is superb. It's still a really big phone, and I still really wish there were more compact, top-of-the-line phones, but I think those days are probably behind us, at least for now. Technically, the phone is a little slimmer and a little lighter than its predecessor, and considering the internal upgrades, that's impressive. The color and material choices on the OnePlus 13 this year are all very different, which provides another route for self-expression on a phone that's already pretty unique. Arctic Dawn is this pristine white with the slightest bit of sparkle in the sunlight. In a cool way, my finger glides along the back material, leaving no fingerprints at all. In a less cool way, it's really slippery, and so it always feels like it's going to fly out of my hand. Listen to this. I think this kind of tells you how it feels. I'll be keeping it in a case most of the time as a result. The blue OnePlus 13 variant has this vegan leather textured back, and it might provide a better grip for those who prefer not to use a case on their phones. I do still really like these Nillkin cases. I've been using one on my OnePlus 12 for the past year. This one is grippy, it has an adequate lip to protect the screen from falls, and it also has a magnetic ring hidden in the case for MagSafe accessories. Right now on AliExpress, it's only available in black, which is a shame. I do hope they add more colors, but it is a very good case otherwise. I'll leave a link in the description. I highly recommend it. Just a heads up, any product links in the description are probably affiliate links if I can make that happen, which means if you click that link and then purchase that product after clicking the link, I might get a small commission, and that would be at no cost to you, but I just want to disclose that. So if you feel like supporting me, cool, buy through that link. If you find a better deal elsewhere, absolutely buy it elsewhere. The camera module is this metallic white, and it has some really intricately machined lines along the edges. There are these subtle radial lines that all converge in the center, and it's really beautiful without being too flashy. I commend OnePlus for providing interesting new options on material design each year, although I do hope the camera module layout will evolve next year. I actually don't mind the layout as it is, but after 3 years, it may start to stale for some. The glossy metal sides of the phone are completely flat, and you would think that this might make it less comfortable to hold, but it actually doesn't. I will say they pick up fingerprints super easily, so while it is beautiful, while it is comfortable, it does get smudgy and oily pretty quickly. Furthermore, the camera module is no longer connected to the side rails. I'm no engineer, but fewer seams and machined curves are almost always a good thing, giving fewer weak points for dust and liquid to enter where it doesn't belong. The OnePlus 13 simply feels sturdier than most every other phone that I've held, although I will defer to jerry-rig everything for the more cruel and unusual methods of testing that claim. Since I'm not going to break it, let's talk about the screen. The OnePlus 13 screen is simple. Not a single concession, and not a single holdup. It meets or beats 21 DisplayMate records for accuracy and capability, earning the highest possible rating for a phone display. BOE really seems to be making top-of-the-line parts for OnePlus, and I'm kind of glad to see the dependency on Samsung removed. The biggest change on the screen this year are these edges. Last year's OnePlus 12 had pretty dramatic curves on the sides of the glass. This year those edges are only barely curved. They call it 2.5D. I'm glad that the super curved edges are no longer a design trend for flagship phones, since it often inhibited the viewing experience whenever it would catch the light. Fortunately, these barely curved screen edges retain a comfortable feel while making content more consistently viewable in various lighting conditions. The phone does come with a screen protector installed, and it seems to work wonderfully. After several weeks of heavy use and living in my pocket, there are no scratches on the screen to speak of. Hopefully OnePlus offers replacement screen protectors this year. This phone has every potential to last for a very long time, but part of having a phone for several years means replacing the screen protector occasionally. I would buy replacement screen protectors to have on hand tomorrow, if given the opportunity. Let's talk about the guts of the phone now, hardware and performance. This is one of the biggest performance jumps between flagship generations in a long time. That makes performance interesting to talk about this year, since there's very little you can do to throttle this phone. It's kind of like having a deep-sea yacht docked in some small lake. Fortunately, this future-proofs the OnePlus 13 brilliantly. I expect it's going to be years before there are any games that struggle meaningfully on this chipset. The benchmarks that I'm running are showing 30 to 40% performance improvements. This lets you push extra frames out of demanding games, stretch the limits of PC and console emulation, stave off heat throttling for longer or indefinitely. You can take 8K video for longer if that's something you care about. You can run all kinds of apps side by side, You can accomplish heavy tasks like video editing on the phone, and most importantly, you can future-proof it to stay relevant for years to come. While the OnePlus 13 is one of the most powerful phones ever made currently, give it another few months and there will be plenty of other popular phone lines that adopt this new Snapdragon chipset. But for the time being, it's really cool to be able to set Geekbench records on this phone. I don't do many marathon gaming sessions on mobile, but games like Call of Duty Mobile, Wreckfest, and Wuthering Waves all run flawlessly on this phone at 60 FPS and beyond for supported apps. Basic use of the phone is fluid and snappy, nothing slows down at all. I'll talk about that a little more when we get into the software. Some benchmark analyses are showing that the OnePlus 13 throttles itself pretty quickly during high CPU loads. I dare say that that's a good thing, considering that the actual in-game performance is as incredible as it is. So it's good to know that it paces its own energy consumption and thermal overhead, and it still has plenty of gas in the tank for future-proofing. There are a bunch of gaming tools also available on the OnePlus 13, and for the most part, they far outpace some of those gaming tool options given by other phone manufacturers. Maybe most importantly, I think that once developers get comfortable with the Snapdragon 8 Elite, there's going to be some amazing things coming out for console and PC emulators. But I know better than to talk about that. So instead, let's talk about battery life. Last year, OnePlus firmly planted itself among the greatest in terms of battery life. This year on the OnePlus 13, we have a new single-cell 6,000 mAh silicon carbon battery, which is a new advancement in batteries, and it's pretty cutting edge for consumer tech. Silicon carbon offers higher energy density, and it's a little more eco-friendly considering the performance and battery longevity. In true OnePlus fashion, it also offers 80-watt wired charging in the United States, 100 watts elsewhere for some reason, and 50-watt wireless charging. Throwing out the mumbo-jumbo, how does this battery serve to make your life better? For starters, the incredible charging speeds give you more flexibility when you do need to charge. Granted, you might not ever need to use the fast charging, since if you charge your phone overnight like I do, you pretty much will only ever see it go from 60% to 100%. But this phone can go from completely dead to 100% in about 40 minutes, and even faster if you're outside the United States. Next, you're less anxious about your battery life when it's consistently giving you 8 to 10 hours of screen on time. If that sounds like a ton, it's because it is. OnePlus is currently leading the charge in a battery life revolution. Even if I let the phone sit off the charger overnight, it's draining maybe 4 to 6%, which is really impressive for an Android phone. Lastly, this new battery technology should enable batteries to have a much longer lifespan. Often, even the most powerful phones have an expiration date, which is when their batteries start to degrade. So this can help you keep your phone for longer before needing to replace either it or the battery. That said, I haven't heard about how OnePlus has mitigated the tendency for silicon carbon batteries to expand and contract during their charging cycles. I don't mean to imply that this phone could have any structural issues as a result, but I do reserve the right to say, I told you so, if it happens later on down the line. Let's talk about the cameras on the OnePlus 13. The hardware specs are pretty straightforward this year. We have 3 lenses, each of which are 50 megapixels, a wide, an ultra-wide, and a 3x telephoto. I fully expect OnePlus's camera performance to be overlooked once again this year, as is tradition with tech journalism outlets. But good camera performance is probably the most important part of a phone for me. On paper, this all looks very similar to the already good camera performance on last year's OnePlus 12. However, you likely know that megapixels contribute comparatively little in the world of phone cameras. Sensor size, stabilization, glass quality, and most importantly, post-processing all matter a lot more to the end product. So while everyone is going to have different opinions on what makes a photo good, I'm happy to say that overall the OnePlus 13 is capturing slightly better pictures and videos than the OnePlus 12, in spite of a lot of the hardware being the same. The OnePlus 13 performs wonderfully in daylight and strong light. Colors are extremely accurate, details are captured well, and each camera sensor is calibrated against each other very well, providing reliable results. Comparing these shots of the same subject with each sensor, it's admirable that the color science is consistent across lenses. The dynamic range is very good, and it doesn't blow out highlights as often as other flagship phones do. Sometimes post-processing leans a little unrealistic on the sky, but still not to the extent that Galaxy phones tend to. The 3x telephoto shots have slightly improved as well. More importantly, the shots that I took with a very deep zoom, meaning 20 times or above, are massively improved over even the current gen Galaxy S24 Ultra. OnePlus calls this an AI telephoto feature. And though I'm super tired of the AI semantics on phones already, I can't deny these results. Super zoom photography is a long way off from creating truly beautiful pictures simply due to the restrictions of digital zoom. But if you need to read a menu from far away, or grab a shot of the band on stage from the back of the venue, or you're into bird watching, this telephoto lens will be a huge win for you. It's way better this year. Let's check out some low light and nighttime pictures. Often a given year's flagship phone shares its camera sensors with several other phones that year, but different results come from different inputs, including processing power, but also from the specific tuning that the manufacturer does. OnePlus, or maybe Hasselblad I suppose, I don't know. They do an admirable job at keeping photos true to the scene. Some phones like Pixels warm up a scene to be more comforting than reality. Some, like Samsung, tend to oversaturate a scene to be more vibrant and punchy than reality. OnePlus tends to place more control of the scene into the user's hands, offering a more neutral result that's true to life. The OnePlus 13 mostly continues that tradition, and I'd say the biggest exception is the night mode. It's improved this year, resulting in brighter images, better details retained, and with faster shutter speeds than before. However, I don't care for it much since I prefer realistic scenes, and night mode turns itself on automatically in low light. Do what you want with that. Overall, the option is great, and it is well implemented. Portrait mode is pretty good. Check out the subject separation in these samples. I do think the OnePlus 13 delineates the subject very well most of the time, although there were a couple misses that I experienced. Something to note though is that the color science is different in portrait mode than standard shooting mode, resulting in more muted and flatter portraits, especially in low light. Oh well, the standard shooting mode results are good enough that I personally don't expect to use portraits very often. Portraits with the front-facing camera do as well as they can, considering the front-facing camera is absolutely nothing special. The front-facing selfie camera is just not worth much. I rarely use the selfie camera myself since I prefer to just turn the phone around and use the main sensor. And honestly, across the entire smartphone industry, I don't think there's much interest in investing in a really good front-facing camera. So it doesn't really feel like a unique weakness of the OnePlus 13. Lastly, there are some other modes present that are a lot of fun to use. Action mode is basically a shutter speed priority mode, and it lets you capture things in motion a lot better while sacrificing relatively little quality. This lets you capture panning shots as well if your subject is moving fast enough, but it'll take some practice to match your panning speed. I'm not that good at it yet. Macro mode is brilliant in every situation. It captures everything that I want really well, and it vastly outpaces its competition. Lastly, my favorite mode on this camera is the X-Pan mode. The mode itself hasn't changed, but with these excellent cameras, the shots that I'm able to get on this are just gorgeous. Again, these are straight out of the camera. I haven't touched them at all. They're designed by Hasselblad to emulate the film look and the aspect ratios from vintage Hasselblad lenses, and it's just a lot of fun. I really like it. It's worth pointing out that post-processing takes a while on this phone, a little longer than most. It almost always results in a beautiful shot, but some of the first glimpses of your picture are kind of amusingly bad sometimes. I have to show off how lousy it looks momentarily in the viewfinder. Ready? It looks so bad. Oh, now it's suddenly good. On the video side of things, I'm happy to say that once again video performance has only improved since last year. Maybe the biggest difference is that Dolby Vision HDR has made it to all three lenses in 4K 60 frames, and it also seems to have generally improved since last year. This is a great improvement enabled by those beefier specs that are driving this phone's video capabilities. 4K 60, Dolby Vision HDR, low light, wide angle. I'm going to switch to primary. Get a little more bokeh there. Switching to the 3x. Walking at night in the city, and I'm not worrying too much about keeping the phone steady. It looks like it's stabilizing pretty well.
Even when I have the OnePlus 13 strapped to my chest and I'm breathing heavily, it actually did a really good job stabilizing the footage. And because I'm never done complaining about selfie cameras, check out this quick comparison.
The front camera's pretty shitty. If you switch between 1080 and 4K, there's no difference. It's just kind of smudgy and bad. But if you flip it around and you switch to just the primary normal wide sensor, it's worth it. Overall, in practice, I think I've seen better video results on the Vivo X200 Pro this year, but OnePlus is providing very strong competition to all of the big players in the United States smartphone space, being Apple, Samsung, and the Google Pixel. And honestly, again, all of this is subjective, so it's just going to come down to whether it looks good to you. Frankly speaking, video performance is not as important to me as photography is, but having an excellent camera system is still super vital when you're looking for a phone that's going to last you for several years. For me personally, a lot of the secondary shots and B-roll that I take for my YouTube channel is done on the OnePlus 12, even though I have a Sony a7 III to do a lot of the heavy lifting. Let's move on to software. And honestly, AI too, we can kind of bundle those together. I confess, I have been a Nova launcher fanboy for like 9 years. I think most Android launchers operate contrarily to the very spirit of the operating system, which is do what you want, how you want it. Oxygen OS has been through a wide variety of evolutions over the years, some good and some controversial, but despite my hesitation, I have used Oxygen OS exclusively for the last year, on the OnePlus 13 as well as the 12 before it. And honestly, it's pretty good. Overall, the latest changes are positive, and they lean a lot more into the user experience being smoother, faster, and a little more visually customizable than other Android wrappers. The notification center is fast and adjustable. The dynamic island continues to get a lot of additional support, and honestly, I've come to really like it. Gestures and navigation around the home screen and system menus are very fluid, and they just make a lot of sense. They're very logically designed. Some of the multitasking modes from the OnePlus Open have also made their way to Oxygen OS 15 as well. And there are a lot of excellent ways in which you can run simultaneous apps. Once again, the improved hardware specs enable this easily, and I haven't noticed any slowdowns.
Look, there's a 17 gigabyte update. Surprise. But what I can do is run it in a floating window. Go do whatever I want while it does this in the background.
And since it's 2025, phones need to be marketed with AI features, apparently. Most AI features that I've seen are either incorrectly named, useless, or invasive to creativity. That said, there are a couple good ones here and a couple forgettable ones. First off, there are lots of new AI photo editing tools. These modes largely mimic the AI editing tools you can find in Google Photos, although a lot of those are locked behind a Google One paywall, whereas OnePlus offers these tools for free. Reflection Remover is kind of cool and it works decently well, although I don't expect to use it more than a few times ever. AI Detail Boost sometimes works, but it's best when you pair it with those really zoomed in shots that you might be getting with the 3x lens. AI Unblur is pretty unreliable in my experience, although it could be improved with updates. And then there's also a lot of AI productivity tools. The intelligent search is incredible, but the AI assistant integration into it is still pretty lacking. It's able to comb through a lot of your phone to search for things, but the actual text interface is pretty weak. It doesn't seem to understand what I'm asking for a lot. There is a lot of potential though. AI Notes, on the other hand, is just completely dystopian. It's able to rewrite your notes or expand on your thoughts or just convey all your thoughts for you based on parameters you set. It's sort of like a large language model thing, and I don't know. I might be old-fashioned, but just let your thoughts be your own. That said, if you use the OnePlus Notes app as a catch-all for your tasks, measurements, or habit tracking or anything like that, I can see the summaries and the formatting aspects of this being useful. I personally just use Google Keep because OnePlus Notes doesn't work cross-platform, and I really need to be able to access my notes on my tablet and my home computer and all that. We all know that the industry is chasing AI features because shareholders demand it, but most of these features are just unnecessary bloat, or they're wrong often enough that I have to babysit it just to make sure it gets it right. And then even when it does get something right, I'm left with the philosophical dread of vanishing human creativity. I don't really care for the AI stuff. That said, there is potential here and there's a lot of room to grow with this hardware, so I'm excited to see how the software evolves over time, but it is pretty good right now. AI stuff aside, there are quite a few things that are pretty annoying to me. First off, and probably most importantly, the clear all button in the app switcher is ridiculous.
If I want to close all of these apps because it drives me a little crazy to have 30 apps open at once, well, I would hit the close all button. I also happen to have a lot of notifications. See all those notifications in the status bar? Let's see what happens when I hit close all on the app switcher screen. Oh wow. That was a bunch of notifications that just completely disappeared. I have no idea what they were, or where they went, or why they go away when I just close background apps.
Whether that's a bug or some sort of misguided feature, I don't know. But it's very frustrating to see notifications unexpectedly disappear from the status bar when I have no idea what they said. Another one is when I open an app from the home screen and then I swipe back up to go back to my home screen, the UI just returns to the folder that I opened the app from. If I swipe once again up, it sends me back in the navigation one step further to the home page that the folder was on. Only after 3 swipes up can I navigate fully to the home screen. I don't know, maybe some people like that. Maybe they like having swiping to go home just as like a back button. I don't like that. I would love to have an option for swiping up to go to the home screen. Lastly, lock screen customization is very slowly improving, but it's still pretty lackluster compared to other Android launchers. There are some new theming options for colors and depth effects, but the text options are static and cheesy. These visual customizations really feel like they needed some more fine-tuning before they were released, although it is nice to see them sort of headed in that direction. Also, for the lock screen customizations that are available, there's very limited utility to them. Once again, all of this can be improved at least. Stuff like the software and the user experience therein are the most easily upgraded over time, so fingers crossed. There's also a handful of fun extras on the OnePlus 13. I mentioned before that there was enhanced cellular connectivity, but there's also enhanced Bluetooth range. This phone does have Bluetooth 5.4 just like its predecessor, so still fantastic Bluetooth performance, but it just goes a lot further now, which is awesome.
Possibly the single largest upgrade the OnePlus 13 offers is in its durability.
Oh crap, I gotta stop leaving my phone here. Ah crap, I gotta stop dropping my phone in the sink. Oh man.
It's so f***ing cool.
Oh, so oh crap, I left my phone on top of the kettle again. Oh crap, I dropped my white phone in the snow again.
Oh no, where did that go? Oh shit, where did that go? Oh boy. Oh, alrighty. Here we are. That's awesome.
Another fun extra of this phone is Aqua Touch 2.0, which lets me stand out in the rain and still be able to use the touchscreen with my wet little fingies. Obviously, this phone also gets the benefit of new waterproof ratings. I might be weird for saying this, but I think the new IP68 water-resistant rating is my favorite part of this phone. It lets me be caught out in the rain, and I also get to be able to take pictures underwater in lakes and swimming pools, and frankly, I've missed that feature that I've had on Android phones in the past. I love the security of knowing that this isn't going to break when I'm caught out in the rain. Beyond that, it's also the first mainstream phone to have an IP69 water resistance rating, which means beyond submersion, it's also capable of taking high-pressure water jets as well as high-temperature steam from any direction on the phone. Obviously, I'm not exactly well-equipped to be able to test that. Okay. It does work.
There's a new accessibility feature also called Glove Mode that's really cool. When you enable it in the settings, you can simply swipe the screen once while wearing gloves that don't typically work with a touch screen, and then all of a sudden, look, it works. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's honestly really cool. Yet another fun upgrade on the OnePlus 13 is the inclusion of an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor. All this basically means is that it works a lot faster, it works a lot more consistently, and it works even when the screen is wet.
That's awesome.
This was on my wish list for upgrades from last year, so this was really cool to see. Something else that isn't new to the OnePlus lineup, but is still a cool feature, is reverse wireless charging. So if you're hanging out at a restaurant and your friend's phone dies and they need a quick charge, all you have to do is rest it on there. It isn't unique to this phone, and it isn't even unique to OnePlus, but it's occasionally incredibly useful, and it's always a fun party trick. One more thing that I wanted to call out is that magnetic accessories are now being offered by OnePlus. My hope was that there would be built-in magnets to this so that you could use magnetic wireless chargers, ring grips, power banks, etc. But unfortunately that isn't the case. However, OnePlus is now selling official cases for the OnePlus 13 that are MagSafe compatible, or Qi2 wireless charging if you'd rather. So magnetic accessories are now officially supported, even if not meaningfully supported. I will say though, the wireless power bank is pretty sexy. Even if it's not a very efficient way of getting backup power for your phone, it's really cool. The form factor is really nice. I might end up getting that, we'll see. So, is this phone worth the asking price? On release, the OnePlus 13 costs blah 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 blah.
Okay, look, no one knows the launch price before launch, and I don't have a time machine while I'm making this video. If this launches at $799 in the US, like some have speculated, I think this is a no-brainer. But IP68 and Dolby certifications cost money, so if it's $899 like I expect, see if a trade-in might be favorable for you, because
OnePlus does fortunately have pretty good promotions fairly consistently as well, which is great because carriers in the United States don't really seem to care about OnePlus. Oh, side note, the OnePlus 13 does work brilliantly with Verizon, in case you're one of the few people like me who needs to know that. There are plenty of phones worth your interest, and there are several that are worth your money, but I don't think there are that many hitting this price-to-performance ratio quite as hard as the OnePlus 13, especially considering how long a phone like this can last you. The OnePlus 13 is fantastic. This video is probably already super long, so wrapping this up, I'm really happy with this phone. I think it's a fantastic phone. They took a lot of my wish list requests from last year's OnePlus 12 and they put them all on this phone. And since apparently OnePlus is listening, why don't you let me know what you would like to see in the OnePlus 14? For me personally, I just hope it's smaller. I just want small phones, man. I just want small phones. But honestly, otherwise, it does everything that I would want it to. It has outstanding battery life, fantastic cameras, and the performance bar is raised to a point where I will probably never approach its limits. I really like what OnePlus is doing. They're focusing on bringing the best to an industry that gaslights you into paying twice as much for a device that they slap some fancy marketing onto. Yeah, I'm calling you out, Pixel. You disappoint me. So, honestly, let me know in the comments if you can think of a single way that this phone can be improved, besides maybe some of the software crap that I already mentioned. So, that is all that I had for this video. Let me know in the comments if you have any other questions about the phone that I can answer for you. Best of luck finding a new phone, and please take care of yourself. See you in the next one.